This is BSBLEG524, Principles of Evidence Law in Matters Under Litigation. This task is to present the findings to the principal in a video recording. Okay. Good evening, Cara. My apologies for this late submission, but thank you for the extension granted. That's fantastic. I've just been in meeting with the client, whose name is David Lee. David met with me on the 27th of February at Minival Lawyers, and he came in to our office because he has been charged with robbery under the Criminal Code Act of 1930, WA, Section 392, subsection C. David advises me that on the 14th of February 2025 he was celebrating his 28th birthday, and he had been out with his friend Mark Johnson, and he offered to help out Mark the following day to work on his car. So Mark agreed, and the following day he arrived at Mark's house. Mark then continues to say that while he was there, he met with the housemate James and his girlfriend Tanya, and they just engaged in a quick discussion before James and Tanya headed out for the evening. Now, in asking David, what were the events leading up to this situation, he advised me that at around 8:05 p.m. He walked to the 7-Eleven, which is on the corner of Albany Highway in Bentley and the street that Mark lives on, and it's approximately a 700-metre walk. And on the way he had bumped into a neighbour whose name is Vera McNaughton. Now, Vera and David had some prior history before. There's been some issues going on with a Facebook page. There was arguments over noise complaints and things like that. So there's a bit of a complex history between the two. And as such, on this occasion, there was a dog walking down the street, and David had been approached by the dog, and Vera came out, and there was a verbal altercation between the two. Vera walked back to her house, but as she did, she watched David continue on to this 7-Eleven store on the corner, and not long after that, David says that he had grabbed some cigarettes and food and then gone back to Mark's house for the rest of the night. Now, here's where it gets interesting. David believes that he was picked up by a taxi at around 11:20 p.m. and the alleged offence actually occurred at the 7-Eleven at 11:15. So we have discovered a key witness in this situation, which is the taxi driver. The taxi driver obviously hasn't made any connection with the police at this stage. There isn't any relevant information. However, I have asked David to provide me a business card that was handed to him so that we can get in contact with the taxi driver in order to gain some further evidence. Now, when having a look at some of the background issues here, I can see that Vera had actually rang the police the night after, watching TV, and the only reason why David knew this was because his housemate James had Mark's housemate James, he works with David, and he actually overheard James at work saying that there was some allegations from Vera about David robbing the store. So I think at this stage it's important that we just do a brief on Vera's facts, and just clarify some information about exactly what she saw that night. When asking David about how often he goes to the store and how often he meets with the store clerk, he said he's generally there on the weekends, and he had a pretty friendly relationship with the store clerk, Jane Smith. So it would be good if we could get a hold of the CCTV footage between the hours of 8 and 8:30 p.m. Because that's the time when David said he attended the store. Now, there's a couple of other things that I guess we covered, which was looking at defences and some of his concerns. And firstly, David said to me that he's very concerned that he's going to spend his life in prison for a crime that he never committed. He's unsure how the police can simply charge someone with suspicion when there's no factual evidence, or at least it's a lot of hearsay and just unreliable evidence that Vera, the neighbour, has provided. He's been known to police in the past. I asked him about any previous criminal charges, and he said he had been charged with stealing in 2017 for accidentally putting some meat in a shopping trolley. He was distracted by a friend, and so when looking at that in circumstantial evidence, I would suggest that this is historically, this is a bit too past the opportunity for prosecution to use that as a reason to push for conviction against David. So as we ran through the situation, I just advised him, first of all, that the burden of proof lies with the prosecution to determine guilt. We have some issues here that prosecution are pushing, is that he's threatened the store clerk with a gun and obtained $2,000 in cash lawfully, but there is no actual evidence of so far as to where the gun or the cash is. So that argument can't be sustained without evidence. Second of all, I guess they'll argue that he used violence with a gun toward a store clerk in order to obtain money, and therefore the maximum penalty David should receive is prison for life. Now, it is very concerning for David. However, we do have some defences which are quite important. And first of all, I did advise him that reliance on the jury in this case will be to determine the inferences that the prosecution have made can be overturned, because the reasonable alternative narrative in this situation existed to prove that there is reasonable doubt, and that doubt is the watertight alibi in Mark's case. He did mention that Mark created an alibi testimony with the police, and obtaining a copy of that testimony will prove very beneficial for David's case. Furthermore, a character witness from James, seeing as that James works with David, would be very good to show that he is earning an income, he's working, and that he obviously, is of good standing in the community and hasn't really a need to be robbing shops. Thirdly, I think we can verify that Mark has been a victim of David has been a victim of mistaken identity. And this is because, as far as the taxi driver is concerned, is that he was with David at the time. Well, this is what David alleges, that obviously when Vera had heard about someone robbing the 7-Eleven wearing something blue with a black top on, it's very likely that those observational factors may have been mistaken for somebody else. So it'd be important for us to gain some CCTV footage from the store, and also to seek out that cab cam footage from the driver with David in the car at the time. I believe that it's probably also important to note that if we were going to plead no guilt, because the inferences made by the prosecution are too remote to determine that David is a person of interest beyond reasonable doubt, the absence of mens rea would obviously be the first point of call, is because he is employed and there was no intention there to rob a store. And second of all, he was in a taxi. Now, these are the statements that David had provided me. And, there's also a few expert witnesses, which I've advised of, that are being court appointed in this circumstances. First of all, he's aware that we've got a forensic expert witness to review the CCTV footage, and that also it can be attained through the local police station, whether or not there were cameras on the streets or neighbouring houses and things like that. So they will all need to be obtained. There will also be a need to develop a checklist, obviously, with the collection, and that I can follow up with David as we receive these updates, so we can, make sure that we're maintaining his file correctly. And at the moment, we've scheduled all the witnesses that David have provided in this situation, and so hopefully we can, with the prosecution's witnesses, we can maintain, just a sense of respect and understanding that, obviously the store clerk is a victim, and Vera, she's obviously provided statements as well, so we just want to clarify. So at the moment, I would say the key witness, which I have determined with David, would be the taxi driver. He would be the silver bullet in this case, and without his taxi cam or his testimony, it would make it very difficult for David. So at this stage, I will just continue to update with him and make sure that he is being sent the appropriate emails and communications to ensure that he's up to date. So yeah, hopefully we'll go from there, and just making sure that we can move forward in this case appropriately. Thank you.